Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Let me just get my stuff situated here. Hello, everyone. I see Logan is here. Hello, Logan. How are you doing? I'm gonna just pull this up real quick. I'm just, oh man, had to go get my mom a cup. So sorry if I sound a little winded. Oh man. Oh. Whew, yeah. All right. Had to run around a little bit, but I'm here. So hello, Logan. How are you doing? I'm sharing this on Discord. So just gonna do that. Darkness. Oh fuck. I hope everyone is doing well today. Logan, I also saw your video about the blade itself. I'm glad you managed to get it. So just wanted to let you know that if you're still here. Sorry if you can hear a bunch of splashing noises. That's my mom cleaning my dog. You know how it is. Oh, I got a notification on my Facebook. I'm gonna go see what that is. But I hope you all are doing well today, whoever's here. I don't think it's a lot of people so far because it's pretty early in the afternoon. I already did that. Sorry if I seem kind of in a rush here. Just kind of, you know. Hope you guys can hear me well. Hear me okay. Hello, Aslan. Thank you for coming to this video. Or this stream. I hope everyone is having a very good Friday afternoon. Glad to hear you're doing well, Logan. Right on. I'm not entirely sure what he's talking about there. Probably something I said. Oh man. It's been a Friday. You know, I had a video recorded. I was with my friend Micah. We did a video talking about difficult literature, and then the audio on it was not very good, so I had to not use it. It's very unfortunate. I really liked that conversation, but I'm hoping we can re-record it at some point and get something together. It'll probably happen. Probably not for a little while because, well, I actually just recorded my my Spoopathon reading list because I'm going to be doing a bunch of horror this month. I usually do that for Halloween, for October. So yeah. That's what I'm doing. What am I reading right now? Well, I am reading a couple of books actually. Thank you for asking. I'm actually about to finish Dr. Philip Chase's Return to Eden by Philip Chase. You guys might know who the very little known author I know. The second installment of Marlon James's Dark Star trilogy, Moon Witch Spider King, which is pretty good so far. It's just very dense, and also I haven't had a lot of time to really read it. He said it was about the blade itself video. Okay. But yes, what else am I reading currently? I'm trying to get started with Luther Strode here, but I just haven't. September went by so fast. It's absolutely ridiculous. Oh yeah, I also started reading my friend Liam from Liam Lyceum's book, Dreamer Awake, which is a kind of science fiction sword and sorcery kind of book. It's really quite it's something. It's fine. I'm not really blown away by it so much. Nothing against Liam or anything, but it's just kind of but check it out anyway. I think it's a interesting, I like Liam. I think he needs some love. So there we go. You were talking about the blade itself video. Okay, I'm glad you managed to find the blade itself. It's a it's a really good book. I really like it. Luther Strode is here's what I know from the pitch that my comic book guys gave me. It's about a guy called Luther Strode who's kind of a Peter Parker type. And he, if I could use a Hollywood pitch, and I generally don't like Hollywood pitches, but if I could use a Hollywood pitch, it's basically Spider-Man meets Flex Mentallo. You know, Flex Mentallo, the Grant Morrison character who flexes his muscles and he can influence reality. It's kind of taking from that same well of inspiration. There's this thing called the Atlas magazine from like hell 80 years ago that how's it going, Sam? That it inspired Flex Mentallo because there would be these old comics that would basically promote it, that, you know, there was the nerd who would get like picked on, and then he would do the Atlas thing. And he would flex his muscles, and, you know, he gets big, he gets the girl, he gets the muscles, you know, that's the kind of joke. And then it inspired Grant Morrison to do Flex Mentallo. Very similar with Luther Strode. He ends up doing this, it's called the Hercule program, I think, in this comic, and he ends up kind of getting like Flex Mentallo powers, though he's not, I don't think he can influence reality though. So there you go. Let's hear it for Cthulhu, or maybe not. Well, I will be talking about H.P. Lovecraft this upcoming month. Just like Arnold, he flexes and influences the world. Yeah, I mean, Flex Mentallo is basically like if Arnold was a superhero. So I guess that makes sense. But going back to Sam's comment, I will be talking about H.P. Lovecraft in October. I'm going to be doing a video about him. Just talking about his legacy, and I put up a poll. I decided, I'm like, all right, do you guys want to see it as a conversation or as a video? It was really complicated because it tied a couple times, and the last time I checked, it tied. But the last I checked, it was the conversation that won, so I just went with the conversation. So I'm going to be doing a conversation. Hopefully, I will get my friend Jason because he's a big fan of H.P. Lovecraft. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope that we can get that together. He did express interest, so there we go. Aslan said, I've been wanting to get into more sword and sorcery. I mean, I would probably start with the classics. So Robert E. Howard, Fritz Leiber. I know Clark Ashton Smith did sword and sorcery. I haven't read him, but I know he's very well known for sword and sorcery. But yeah, just go back to like Robert E. Howard and just get kind of an idea of planning on reading more. Tried listening. Have you tried Horror Babble? I think his name is Ian Gordon. He has a really good voice. I'll admit, I'm not a big Lovecraft fan, which is why I was going to make that video about Lovecraft. There were several ways I kind of thought about doing it. I kind of thought about doing kind of like an epic poo type of thing where I make fun of Lovecraft and talk about horror writers I think are better than him, which there are plenty. But then I'm like, no. I mean, I don't think I have as much gusto as Michael Moorcock. But I think Lovecraft is quite fascinating for the concepts that he plays with, you know, like the fear of the unknown and, you know, his beliefs. I mean, read his personal writings. I think his personal writings are actually far more interesting than his actual like fiction. Though I do like stuff like The Color Out of Space. I have a soft spot for because I just like that idea. I know Epic Poo is kind of, it's a contentious essay. I wouldn't call it nonsensical, but it is definitely him kind of being a teenager, not wanting to do it Papa Tolkien's way. You know, I get it. Moorcock has some good stuff. Also for sword and sorcery, I would recommend yes, I would count The Witcher as sword and sorcery. And speaking of that, Elric from Michael Moorcock is really good sword and sorcery, though he kind of does his own thing with it. He very much, it's like sword and sorcery, and then it just gets weirder over time. And if you know anything about like chaos and law from like D&D, that's where that comes from. Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting way of putting Lovecraft. Yeah, I'm actually hoping to do a video series next year, kind of like how I do the state of science fiction. I won't be having it won't be like a podcast series like I do state of science fiction. It'll be more of a um it'll be more of a me discussing the concepts, me getting people on. I'm hopefully getting like someone like Philip Chase and Raph on. So yeah, I'll definitely be doing that on Fate of Fan. It's going to be called the Fate of Fantasy. This is kind of the first you're hearing about this. I did do a poll about it a few months ago, but I'm waiting for next year to do that, because yeah, I would love to do that though. I think that would be a really good video. There are videos about that, like Bookborn and Daniel Green have made videos about it. I do think that there are certain things that they missed out on, particularly like Sword and Sorcery, they kind of missed out on, which is like one of the oldest fantasy, like pre-Tolkien. This was before Tolkien, so it's just kind of how it is. Yeah, agreed. I won't argue with you there, Aslan. He definitely, even his fans will acknowledge that it was like the Cthulhu mythos and just the weird ideas he came up with that are far more influential. But if you're interested in reading his nonfiction, I would highly recommend Supernatural Horror and Literature. It might be the best look into horror literature that isn't from S.T. Joshi. Hey, don't knock Elric. Elric is a lot of fun. I really like Elric. It's not as I mean, it's definitely more self-aware and like more modern than something like Conan. I know a lot of people kind of, poke fun at Conan because of reasons. He's a guy in a loincloth who runs around and beats people up and stabs them. But Moorcock is a bit more ironic with his, a bit more snark, very British, I would say. Yes, there is. Also, Jeff Vandermeer is a part of that group. Though it's kind of interesting. Like if you read something like Area X, it's basically the color out of space in like Stalker. And though Jeff Vandermeer said that he was not thinking of Stalker when he wrote Southern Reach, so it might have been unconscious. I don't want to say he's oh, it comes full circle. Arnold played Conan. Yes, he did. It's a fun, and James Earl Jones, the late great James Earl Jones played I'm sad to say the late great played the villain. He's very good. Yes, make fun of Conan. He hits you with a chair. Yeah, he would probably do worse than that, Tharnall. But hey, Tharnall, I saw you said hi, Britton. How are you today? I'm doing pretty good. It's Friday. It's my day off, so I'm just kind of chillaxing. I'm gonna be kind of just chilling here for a little while. And then I'm gonna be on Amanda's channel at 7 Central Time, so about 4 hours from now. If you guys want to watch that, we're gonna be talking about mental health and the dark side of YouTube. So I'm gonna be opening up a little more about what I was talking about in that video. That's an interesting take. I feel it's interesting you say that. I feel like Elric is more ironic, more like postmodern than Conan. Conan is more iconic. He has this very, very, again, it's kind of like the movie, it's though I feel the movie doesn't quite capture Robert E. Howard, because I mean Robert E. Howard is kind of a different animal all around. He was just Souls for Ariok, yeah. I would recommend Elric if you're interested in Sword and Sorcery, though it's a bit weirder in Sword and Sorcery. It goes into it starts out as Sword and Sorcery, and it very much is a Sword and Sorcery kind of thing, because he's very much a kind of sword for hire, kind of on a journey, and he becomes, though he's far more morally ambiguous than Conan, because like Conan, I wouldn't call him a like good guy, but he does have a code. Like he has a code, he has an honor thing about him. Elric, like, if you get in his way when he's wigging out on his sword Stormbringer, look out. You know, he'll kill you. Yeah, so there's that as well. Secret of Steel and the Force of Arms to wield it. Yes, that's one of my favorite scenes of the Conan movie, actually. Speaking of that, is when Arnold is praying to Chrome and he's basically saying, give me strength to defeat the enemy. And he's like, and he says, I freaking love how he says it. He goes, and if you don't, then the hell with you. He just fucking spits it out. I love it. It's great. That's my favorite scene. And then also when James L. Jones turns into a snake, like that's great. I love that. It's beautiful. Britton, have you read Berserk? I feel like it would be right up your alley. Yes, I have read Berserk. I have read it up to the one with the creepy Judge Holden kind of character, the brother. I think his name's Brother. It starts with an M. I can't think of the dude's name at the moment. But yes, I have read Berserk. And spicy take here, but I think that the Lost Children arc is 10 times more screwed up than the Eclipse. The Eclipse is a little overrated. Though the Eclipse is really fucked up, don't get me wrong. The Lost Children, oh man, that, and I read that shit before I went to bed, which I do not recommend you do. It is really scary. It's really, really horrifying stuff. So yeah. I don't recommend that. Don't ever do that. Are you into manga at all? Yes, I have read some manga. There's some I really enjoy. I'm more of an American comics fan, so it's not really nothing against manga. For a long time, I used to think that manga was a little silly, which I know is kind of ironic coming from me. I read a lot of superhero comics. I do like some manga. I've covered some manga on my channel. I'm a big fan of Naoki Urasawa for one. I really love he has a very realistic style, unlike other anime or manga where it just looks like they're about to fucking bounce off the page. And that just kind of, I don't, maybe it's like a culture thing. I have no idea. I know that Japan has a very different comics culture than we do out here in America. But I like things that do take themselves at least a little seriously. So I mean, I do like some manga though. I'm a big Naoki Urasawa guy. I really love Death Note. I really like Death Note a lot, and Berserk, as I mentioned earlier. I like Berserk a lot. Though again, oh god, yeah, no, yeah, that. Oh yeah, I can't even think of that now without just shivering. I can't. I can't just. Man, it's yeah, that's true. And a lot of American comics are pretty silly too. I mean, read like some of the earlier Superman and Fantastic Four. Um Excuse me. But yes, I do read manga from time to time. There are some more I want to read. I want to read more Urasawa, so I'm hoping to read 20th Century Boys at some point. Berserk, Death Note. I also have read what's its name? The samurai one, not Lone Wolf and Cub. I have read Lone Wolf and Cub though, which is phenomenal. The other one that's really pop. Philip and Murphy did a series about it. I can't think of the freaking name. Aslan, if you know what I'm talking about, or if anyone knows what I'm talking about, let me know. I can't think of it at the moment. It's one word. It's one fucking word. What is it? I can't. I'm brain farting at the moment. Let me look here. My profile on Goodreads. Okay. Vagabond. Yes, that's it. Vagabond. That's the one I was talking about. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yes, Vagabond is the one. Vinland Saga is one I want to try because I'm really fascinated by like Norse and Vikings and stuff. So I would like to try Vinland Saga, Aslan. But thank you though. Vagabond is the one I'm talking about. It's a I read the first volume, and I'll admit I was a little thrown off because I was reading it wrong, admittedly. um, Oh yeah, that. Oh yeah. I mean, read some of the original comics from back in the day. They really did some weird shit in that comic. Like read like the original like Fantastic Four or like Spider Man. There's some weird stuff in there. It's just oh man, and like Batman was like murdering people with like a machine gun, just straight up like just killing people. It's I mean I don't want to say it's funny, but it's just kind of funny considering where we're at now. You know. Um, but yeah, it's just it's a lot of but going back to the question, I am not against manga. I have softened towards it over the years, but I'm generally picky about what manga I read because, there's a lot of it that's kind of goofy. Though there's a lot of American comics that are goofy too. I mean, hell, read like I'm sure there's a comic I'll think of later that's pretty goofy. I mean, read like All Star Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder, and you'll see everything. You know, you'll see everything you need to know about how silly American comics can get, even though it's pretty unintentionally silly. I think Frank Miller was really trying to read. I have heard of Bakuman. Yes, I'm a big fan of Death Note, and it's by the same creative team as Death Note. So I would love to read that. Um, um, yeah. Uh, oh, I haven't read the original X-Men. I'm sad to say. I've only read the Claremont X-Men and the Morrison. Oh, if you want some good silly, I mean, Grant Morrison kind of takes that Silver Age. So just read the Silver Age of comics and just some of the crazy shit they came up with, and you will see how silly American comics can get. I'm just saying. I have no room to stand. It's just a personal thing, you know. Yeah, One Piece is. I joked with some friends of mine who are fans of it. I'm like, yo, One Piece is so old, it could literally have a job and a mortgage by now. Like, this started before I was born, and it's still going on right now. So I'm just, yeah, it's a lot of, yeah, I agree with you though. It's a lot of time. Maybe I'll try it someday because there's a lot of people who really like it. I know Philip has liked it. I know that Philip likes it, Murphy likes it, even John likes it from Talking Story. Um it's kind of funny the cycle of YouTube, how it works because you know, like a few years ago, like Cormac McCarthy was really blowing up on BookTube. And I know I can't shut up about Cormac McCarthy, but it was really funny seeing like Blood Meridian become so popular. Um and just being kind of baffled that so many people like it. And don't get me wrong, this is great. I'm glad to see that Cormac McCarthy's blowing up. It's kind of funny because Cormac McCarthy has a style that might alienate a lot of people. Can you imagine like Tori covering Cormac McCarthy? I know she's read The Road and she said she liked it, but it was a bit bleak for her taste. Again, I do not remember that. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, maybe someday I'll try One Piece. I'm not against it. It's just kind of, again, I don't know if I can deal with that level of silliness, but we'll see. We'll see. I have read them. I have read Silver Age American comics, so I'm not going to say I'm never say never. Yeah, no, I would say The Road is a good place to start with McCarthy, aside from like No Country for Old Men or Child of God or something, because it's short. Though, I mean, I'll admit, Child of God is one of my lesser favorite McCarthy books. Though I want to read it again because I remember really liking the writing of it. Absolutely agreed. You really want to see, aside from Blood Meridian, if you really want to see McCarthy off the leash, read Child of God. But it's going back to my point. Kind of going back to my point that I was making. It's interesting seeing how books kind of blow up on BookTube. Like One Piece blew up, and Cormac McCarthy blew up a few years ago, and Spear Cuts Through Water, which is I've read the Amazon sample. It is a really weird very experimental book, and yet a lot of people are covering it because Evie was so passionate about it. She was she was really going to bat for it. A lot of people read it, which is great. I'm glad to see more people reading more, challenging themselves and reading more experimental literature, which is kind of funny. Now I'm kind of retreading some stuff I talked about with my friend Micah last night. Not last night, it was on Wednesday, but I was going to post it today. It's yeah, that's the thing with McCarthy. He really likes that sparse, repetitive dialogue, which can annoy people. So um I felt it made sense in The Road because, well, when you're in the post-apocalypse, it's probably going to be a pretty boring, dreary existence. So I mean, I don't want to sound swarmy though. You like what you like, but yeah, I can understand how the dialogue might kind of get under people's skin. Um, but going back to my point, I just think it's kind of funny how books kind of blow up in popularity on BookTube. Um, I mean, it's cool. It's really cool. I'm glad to see that these books are blowing up. But I find it quite fascinating. Really, it might be something I'll talk about at some point. Sure, I can see why you might think that. Yeah, I mean, I'll admit there are parts where they're just like, hey, but I kind of took it as they would say the same things to each other just to keep themselves sane, just so because a lot of the book is about how you have to keep going for something. That's what carry the fire means. I hate to state the obvious. But that's what carry the fire means. That's why they're always talking about carrying the fire. They're talking about keeping going somewhere. They have to keep going because, like, they could commit suicide, but there has to be something. They're striving for something, and it's really I mean, I think it's a great book, but it's not one of my favorite McCarthy, and I don't know if it's the best thing McCarthy has done. That would probably be Blood Meridian, which I see you're going to read next, and for that, good luck. Also, Aslan, if you do plan on reading that, I would highly recommend Amy Gets Lit's read along of Blood Meridian. That really helped me when I was reading that book, when I read that book for the first time. And also Aaron Gwynn's stuff. You can find him, American Gwynn. I'll put it in the comments, actually. Let me just type it down here. American Gwynn. So there you go. If you want, and also I'll put Amy Gets Lit in the comments as well. Shit. Amy Gets Lit. She actually was doing a read along for American Gods Odds as well, which was really fascinating, but she took it down, which was really sad because I me, I love that book. I've been wanting to read Blood Meridian for ages. It's a great book. I'll admit, again, kind of going back to the video I would have put up today if that didn't fall through. There are books out there that are kind of hard sells, and Blood Meridian is one of those books that are kind of hard sells. It's that one is a hard sell because it's more of an experience than a more traditional narrative. Sam says, "Oh, Sun Eater, that's a good example too. That's a series I probably never would have heard of if BookTube hadn't come around and talked about it." And Rockio seems like a really interesting guy. I've seen interviews of him. I've had friends of mine who've interviewed him, and he seems like a really interesting guy. Very, he knows what the hell he's talking about. Which is a good sign. That means he might create some good fiction if he knows what the hell he's talking about. Because so often I find one of my gripes with fantasy is that not enough authors know what the hell where the hell they're coming from. Like, there's a lot of people who will go, "Oh, George R. R. Martin and Joe Abercrombie are like the pinnacle of fantasy." That's an opinion, and that's fine. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but they're not the pinnacle. They were pulling from other sources. And the same thing with Tolkien. You know, Tolkien also pulled from other sources. You can see now why I'm going to hopefully do the Fate of Fantasy. I'm hoping to dispel some of these misconceptions, if you will, because it kind of bugs me when people like people act like Joe Abercrombie and George R. R. Martin are like the gold standard of fantasy. And don't get me wrong, they are phenomenal at what they do. It's just like you're just straight up ignoring all the history of fantasy that even goes all the way back to like old myths, like the Odyssey and the Iliad and the Aeneid. I haven't read the Aeneid, but I've read the Odyssey and the Iliad, or Beowulf for that matter. I might attract Philip Chase here if I'm not careful with the Beowulf talk. Oh yeah, Parker's another guy I would really like to talk to. I've read The Grapes of Wrath a few years ago, and it's kind of interesting to read as an Oklahoman. Of Mice and Men is phenomenal. I love that book. It's one of the most heartbreaking things I've ever read. Introduced me to Gene Wolfe. I've only read one Gene Wolfe book, and it's called The Land Across, and I thought it was pretty shitty. But I am going to read The Wizard Knight with T from An Erudite Adventure and Liam from Liam's Lyceum, either in October and November or November and December. I'm not entirely sure. I need to get in touch with them. But I would like to try the Book of the New Sun, because the Book of the New Sun is very popular for some reason. It seems like a very niche series from the sounds of it. Parker's another guy. He's smart. He knows what the hell he's talking about. Hi, Helena. How are you? Glad to see you here. Same. I would love to pick that man's brain. He seems like a really fascinating guy. I also love the mustache too. It's he seems like a really interesting guy. He has that Nietzsche stash going. I dig it. I wish I could grow a mustache. I mean, you guys can see this is about the amount of facial hair I can grow. It'll get a little thicker over time, but that's about that's about the facial hair I'll grow. I'm doing pretty good. It's been a September freaking flew by. I have to say I was shocked, because I thought I would have more time to finish Moonwitch Spider King, and I just didn't have it. So Robin says facts. I don't know what he's referring to. He's probably, if I could guess, it's probably he's probably referencing my discussion about how Abercrombie and Martin aren't the pinnacle of fantasy. I know a lot of people love Discworld. I was going to start it this year, but my reading has been exceptionally slow. So next year, you guys hold me to it. Next year, I will read Guards. At least I will read Guards. I don't really want to do Color of Magic, because a lot of people just seem rather mixed on the whole thing. So, Guards though, you guys hold me to it. I'm hoping to get to that next year. So I was going to do it this year, but stuff just kept getting in the way. And also Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell was freaking long. So there's that. But yeah, no, that's interesting. It pulls from all sorts of fantasy. I probably will dig it then. And a lot of people really like that series. I know Raph really loves it. Derry really loves it. Tori really likes the Guards, what is it called? The City Watch, I think. I would also, because Robin said facts earlier, I would recommend Robin's channel. He's a very underrated gem on BookTube. He talks about a lot of not just, the popular fantasy novels, but he talks about a lot of really like older fantasy that isn't really covered on BookTube, unless like Leanne's library or Evie gets like interested and starts reading, because Evie's interesting. She's been reading a lot of like more older fantasy books that are kind of obscure now, like Gorman Goss. She read King of Elfland's Daughter the other day. I saw on her Instagram. And she read Blood in the Mist. She's also a big fan of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which I also really enjoy. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. That was a fantastic book. I'm also hoping to read his favorite book, I think, is Blood in the Mist, if I remember right. His favorite fantasy novel, anyway. And I'm hoping to read that next year. So, that as well. And King of Elfland's Daughter as well. Because, Judge Holden does not have any facial hair. So I'll do you one better there. That mustache is an anomaly of the physical universe. I mean, if you want to see an anomaly, you should see Friedrich Nietzsche's mustache. That man had absolutely pristine mustache. Like it's not even human. it's not even human. I'm afraid of Book of the New Sun, and at the same time really want to read it. It's again kind of funny you bring that up. I was talking with Micah again, Habitual Blood on YouTube. Check him out. He's also very underappreciated. I think Brian said it best at the end of the day, and I understand, there are some books I'm intimidated by. Like I was intimidated by Malazan for a long time, and then next year I'm going to try Malazan. So we'll see how that goes. But I do agree with Brian though. At the end of the day, it is just a book, it is just words on a page. And, sometimes I feel like a lot of people put a lot of effort into understanding a book. Sometimes you don't, and actually Micah made a really, and that's what was inspiring me to talk about difficult literature with him, is because he made a video talking about how sometimes with a book, you don't need to understand it necessarily. You need to experience it. And I feel like Book of the New Sun is kind of in that vein. I could be wrong, of course, but don't read The Land Across though. That book was awful. I really did not care for that book. Don't read. Do not read. Well, I did just say, but yes, I did really enjoy Jonathan Strange, Mr. Norrell. It was a really good book. It is long and it is a bit dense, but don't worry. Don't be scared away. It's pretty understandable for the most part. It's just kind of long-winded because in the 18th century, that's just how people talked. Or, well, no, 19th century. Sorry. I sometimes get mixed up with those things. Thanks. Yeah, those are good. Those are probably good. I've heard Small Gods is kind of like the comedic version of American Gods, which I think is kind of fascinating because American Gods is my favorite fantasy novel of all time. But thank you, Tharnall, for the recommendations, though. I'll definitely keep those in mind. But what was I talking about? Oh, you asked if I like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Oh, yeah, very much so. It's very different from Piranesi, just in terms of the style. She actually does name drop Piranesi, though, towards the latter end of the book. So I thought that was pretty funny. But it's a really good book, and it's kind of funny because it's kind of ironic that as a fantasy fan, I generally don't care about magic. Like that's not really something that I focus on as much. I'm more interested in like the feel, in the world, in the tone that it's used, in the language that's being used. I want to feel like I'm in a different place that isn't quite our world, but is, almost. It's kind of something. It's kind of like what Le Guin said in from Elfland to Poughkeepsie, which I'll admit I have not read the whole thing, but I've heard it enough where I get the general idea of what she's talking about, and I generally agree with that. Like fantasy is about the feel of it. It's not necessarily magic for me, though. Hey, it really takes an exceptional book to really get me to go, wow, the magic, that really was impressive. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell was one of those books. I was really fascinated with how she explored magic in that book. No problem. And hey, maybe if I read Blood in the Mist, hopefully next year, I can get you on. We can talk about it. Book of the New Sun. Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. I mean, I'm not, it's kind of interesting. Well, there's a lot of things that are interesting, but it's kind of funny. I haven't read Brandon Sanderson, so I can't really. It's kind of weird. Brandon Sanderson's one of those guys like I really respect because there's like a lot of stuff that he's done for fantasy and what he's done for literature and what he's done for like Kickstarters and kind of he's a very forward thinking man, and I appreciate that a lot. But just from what I've heard about his work and just his views on fantasy, I don't think I would be that interested in reading his work. But I could be wrong. I could read Mistborn or the Stormlight Archive and be like, holy shit, that is crazy fire. You know, we'll see. Small gods and American gods only have common, in fact, beliefs will give power to the gods. Also a theme prevalent in Sandman. That makes sense. I mean, Terry and Neil Gaiman were friends, so that I would be shocked if he wasn't influenced by Terry Pratchett at least a little bit. Though, yeah, if there's one, if there's something if people like American Gods and are like, oh, I want something similar, I would read The Sandman, because like Darnell says here, there's a lot of similarities with the themes and the concepts that are played with there about, belief and the power of story and the power of myth. And I mean, it kind of sucks that Neil Gaiman, it kind of sucks. Neil Gaiman turned out to be like a sex pest, because I mean, I did a video discussing my views on authors when they fuck up, and I have to kind of deal with that. I already did that. I stand by what I said in that video. But I think Gaiman is a really fascinating author in terms of just his impact and just how much he has shown that, no, you do not have to write a Tolkien clone in order to succeed in the fantasy genre. The Sandman and American Gods. I mean, I haven't read Neverwhere, but Neverwhere probably falls into that list. Or Coraline, for that matter, shows that, you can write stuff that's completely off the beaten path in terms of fantastical literature. And he succeeded. He did it. He is just as well known as like George R.R. Martin or J.R.R. Tolkien. And even though this scandal he's going through is probably going to mar his legacy for a lot of people, I do think he will go down as one of the most influential fantasy authors of all time. I mean, just think about his impact and just think about all the things that he did, what he has done. Not just bad things, but also just a lot of the fantasy literature that he talks about and says, check this out. This is actually good. You're missing out on this. Like he was very complimentary of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell and Alan Moore and Blood in the Mist and King of Elfland's Daughter and Michael Moorcock. He's a student of the fantasy genre, and I think that's really fascinating. There's very few fantasy authors I think that aren't as studious of the genre as Gaiman is, unless you're maybe like Ursula K. Le Guin or even Michael Moorcock himself, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, Epic Pooh will give you a couple eye rolls, but I think what makes Moorcock interesting, much like Gaiman, is that he's a student of the genre. He knows what the hell he's talking about for the most part, and that's what influences him to write, is because he wants to push that forward. And Gaiman is a very similar way, just in a different manner, of course. Yeah, GGK is another one I need to try. I haven't really that's a good way to put it. Immersion. That's a good way to put that. It's immersion I care about in fantasy. But also in fiction in general. Like, if I'm not immersed in the world or what's going on, forget it. You're not going to get anywhere. Yeah, no, that's why is it not doing that? Yes, it's been a year, to be honest with you. It has been a year. Well, for one, it's an election year. I won't get political here today, but it's been a year. Is all I'll say. Like, oh my God. Like, the whole Gaiman thing, the whole Gaiman thing, then Trump nearly getting assassinated twice. You're like, what the fuck? It's weird. I did read Between Two Fires last year, and I thought it was pretty good. It's probably Buellman's best book, because I've had a lot of... Buellman's one of those writers I really want to like, but he keeps doing things that are just stupid, and it just drives me crazy. Like, Those Across the River, it's a tale of two books, really. Like, the first half of that book is really freaking good. Like, moody, atmospheric, has a lot of really great creepy moments, and then he just completely shits the bed with the ending of that book. Just, I don't know what the hell he was thinking with the ending of that book. It's just kind of, what the hell was that? I thought the Black Tongue Thief was just bad. It was like a bad Abercrombie ripoff. I mean, if you like the Black Tongue Thief, I'm sorry. That's great. I'm glad you like Black Tongue Thief. I'm not saying you shouldn't like it, but I wrote a review about it, and I've done a review about it, and I stand by most of what I said in those reviews. But it's like, just read, like, if you read that, you could read like Fritz Leiber and Joe Abercrombie, and you'll get a better experience than reading that book. At least my experience. But Between Two Fires, though, I thought was really good. It probably has the best tone, and it's the most consistent of his books. Like, there wasn't a lot of moments where I was really, angry at it. Though the ending, I'll admit, was probably the weakest part. The kind of climax where he goes to hell. Spoilers. Minor spoilers. But he goes to hell, and it's kind of like, what? But aside from that, I think it is his strongest book that I've read so far. So, maybe I'll read more Buellman in the future, but I'm kind of taking a break from him at the moment. I do agree. Piranesi is a really good book. I read it last year around November, and I was blown away. As it's very much, it's kind of in a way the opposite of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is very ornate, very flowery, very poetic, beautifully so. There's a lot of beautiful writing in Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, where I had to like sit the book down and like get a fucking drink and like think about what I just read. Ed, it's phenomenal. So freaking fantastic. What are you referring to? It might be something I was ranting about earlier. Okay. Yeah. No. If I could describe the Black Tongue Thief, it is very much, take Fritz Leiber, Fafhrd the Grey Mouser, and then take Joe Abercrombie. Okay, Joe Abercrombie writing Fafhrd the Grey Mouser, but badly. That's how I would describe the Black Tongue Thief. Though, I love the cover for Black Tongue Thief. I really like the cover for Black Tongue Thief. And there's a lot of really good atmospheric, world building in Black Tongue Thief as well. But like, it's just the story isn't quite there. And you're just kind of, and the voice in that book, I really didn't care for as well. Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm not really, oh man, I've heard that name actually. Maybe I'll check him out. But I would say that Between Two Fires is kind of like, it's like a medieval horror fantasy take on like The Road, except it's not as repetitive. It's, again, I think it's his most consistent book in terms of the quality. Like, I liked most of what I was reading, and it didn't irritate me nearly as much as Those Across the River and the Black Tongue Thief did. That's interesting. I don't hate it. It's just kind of, I just feel like, it's like you said, I do think we should have spent some more time in hell. But I thought it was kind of, I think it could have been done a little better. But I actually really like the ending. I really like how it wraps up. It's kind of like with Stephen King, sometimes the climaxes aren't that great, but like the end, like the actual, ending scene is really well done. I mean, no, but I want to, though. That is on my list. I know that Neil Gaiman and Michael Moorcock are very fond of that book. I would really enjoy reading Mythago Wood at some point. Owen Edwards did a really good video about it a few years ago, I think, that I really liked and made me want to pick that book up. Let me go shut the door real quick because my cat knocked open the door. But I hate to say it because I want to read Mythago Wood, but no, I have not read it. I wish I had, but I have not. But let me see some of the comments I missed because I've been kind of skipping around here. Complicated fantasy. Well, if you like complicated fantasy, I would recommend this, or the first book and the second book of this. I'm only barely into this right now, but Marlon James. If you think Malazan is difficult, Marlon James is like hold my weird drugs that I took when I was writing this book. Or maybe he just has a feverish imagination. That's also a very likely thing. But I really like I really enjoyed those books a lot. And I don't want to scare people away. I'm actually hoping to make a video with my friend Soshia Zoo talking about the Dark Star trilogy and Black Leopard Red Wolf specifically, and how you should read it. And because I know a lot of people who've bounced off of Black Leopard Red Wolf, and it's understandable. It's pulling from a lot of traditions that people don't really know. And I'll admit, my knowledge of African oral storytelling is very limited. It's very much, I learned a little bit about it in middle school, and for some reason it just stuck. There's a fluidity in the language, and there's a fluidity in how the story is being told, and it often bounces around. So that might throw some people off. But the story is generally pretty straightforward. It's about these group of people looking for this boy, and it goes terribly wrong. I won't say much more than that, but it's how the story is being told. And again, I don't really want to scare people away from it because I want people to read it. But I want people, I mean, there's a lot of really cool stuff in it. Like there are giants who can literally, they don't like being called giants. They're called ogos, but they can literally punch through rocks. They're so strong. There's great characters. There's a lady who literally turns into like a weird not mud, like a weird oil type of, fluid. There are people who, there's witches, there's spells, there's monsters some of them are actually based on, I actually looked it up later. It's actually based on African mythology, and it blew me the fuck away. I was like, what? But, there's a lot of cool shit in both of these books. But it's, again, the tone, the storytelling, how it's done, it can throw people off. I understand that. I'm not, it's kind of like Blood Meridian in that way. It's not necessarily, it can be kind of a hard sell for some people, but I would say that, the story of Black Leopard Red Wolf is far more coherent than something like Blood Meridian, Blood Meridian is pretty coherent. It's pretty straightforward, but it's the ambience of it, I'm probably just speaking out of my ass at this point. Let's see here. Exactly what you're describing. Yeah, it's again, I haven't read Guy Gavriel Kay yet. I want to at some point. It's just I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It's nothing really against the guy. I just haven't read him yet. I know a lot of people really like Guy Gavriel Kay, so I'm hoping it's good. I really do. I mean, I heard Tagana is really good, and like the Lions of Alasan, I think. I could be wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm mostly right, I think. I always think Al-Assad because of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the original one. So, there's that. And there's other ones I think of that I can't think of at the moment. I mean, I'm just rambling here, so I'm sorry if people don't understand what I'm talking about. I'm just kind of rambling onwards. Let's see what else. What did I miss? Again, so freaking fantastic. I don't know what he's referring to, but maybe it's one of the books I talked about. Justin A.W. Blair, hello there. Happy to have you here. Britton, I hope you enjoy this chat. Also good, but a bit derivative of Tolkien. Dude, that's a lot of fantasy. Like, come on. Like, it's like you read Game of Thrones, you're like, this reminds me of Tolkien. Oh wow, that might be because he was inspired by Tolkien. um. Oh yeah, you read Tagana, didn't you? Yeah, Colin got you to read it. If I remember right. Yeah, that's I know a lot of people like Tagana. I haven't read Tagana, but yeah. Another good fantasy series is Philip Chase's Edan books. I've been trying to dip my toes in the indie stuff recently, at least this year anyway. And I'd probably say that Philip Chase's Edan trilogy is probably the best that I've read from that kind of. Oh, you were talking about Between Two Fires. Okay. Yeah. Well, like I said, with Between Two Fires, I think it's probably his best book, but I still had some issues with it. But I love the atmosphere of it. I love the atmosphere. The characters were really well done. I really liked the journey of the story and a lot of the religious symbolism I really liked. And I also like that Bielman doesn't hold back from some of the, kind of fucked up things that happened back then. People, homophobia and, hating on Jews. He doesn't hold back from that because I absolutely don't like in historical fiction when they try to like shoehorn like modern stuff in there, and it just completely breaks the narrative for me. It and it's kind of hard to create nuanced characters who have, and that could also bring up an interesting conversation about like it's kind of interesting that like people can like permit people murdering other people, but like racism and like bigotry, like that's too far. Like, I find that kind of fascinating. And that's not to say that I think racism is like not like a lesser bad than like murdering somebody, but it's just like it's kind of fascinating. I mean, on the one hand, like with racism, you can just go, that guy is a fucking asshole and be done with it. And like, but like murdering someone, you're taking that dude's life from him, you know? Again, it's kind of, I just find that fascinating. Let's see, what else did I miss? I hope Sam's still here. Maybe he was just dropping in for a little bit. Oh, he said would love to hear you pick his brain. I would like to pick his brain at some point. Maybe I'll send him an email because I don't really know how to contact him. But that would be a fascinating chat. It would be like probably be like having like Jordan or somebody on. That would be fun. That reminds me, I need to get Jordan on again. He's a good dude. Let's see. What else did I miss? Again, no problem. I like shouting people out. I do my random shout out thing on my community tabs. Kevin Towler reads. I'll look that up, Logan. Oh, geez. So if any of you know John, you know that he and his son Jacob have been kind of arguing with each other. Not really an argument, but like kind of a playful argument about if the Tangle is real. Apparently, if you follow him on Patreon and you just got the email, apparently he has just done it now. So it's real. The Tangle is real. It's been confirmed. It's peer reviewed. So yeah, go check that out. I just saw that. I'm like, oh dear, what is this? Oh boy, my grandma just is gonna watch my new Days of Our Sinners episode. So, oh well, it was good hearing from you, Helena. Always love hearing from you. Maybe you can bring up Patrick Rothfuss. That's another one I've been hesitant to check out. Patrick Rothfuss, because also goodbye, Helena. Hope you have good sleep. But it's kind of interesting because he has a really interesting influence on the fantasy genre at the moment, because he's kind of in that George R. Martin kind of state where he's he hasn't written the third book yet, and everyone's frustrated now, and they're like, where the hell is it? So I've thought about trying Name of the Wind, but I don't know. It's just kind of it's just what is it? I've heard it's kind of fan servicey. I could be wrong, but it's just kind of, and that just doesn't really interest me. But then again, there's like the whole unreliable narrator thing. Maybe I'll try it and give it a shot. I'm not as much like with oh, shut up. It's not quite as bad as a Brandon Sanderson, or like a Robert Jordan, where I don't know if I'll ever read any of their books because just their approach to fantasy just doesn't sound interesting to me. But I am definitely taking my time before I read Name of the Wind. There are other fantasies I would like to try, like King of Elfland's Daughter and maybe some of Tolkien's other stuff. Like I've wanted to try the Silmarillion for a long time, but that's one of those books I'm kind of like, like, am I gonna get this? Yeah, no, right? Yeah, it's just like, I think I can explain that a little bit. I think it's because like animals kind of don't know any better, so it's like kicking a kid, like kid doesn't know any better. Like if you do violence against an adult, like they're two like adults fighting each other, so there's like a thing there. It's really quite fat. It's interesting. It's interesting. Oh, so you're going to review Tagana Live. Good luck with that. I probably won't see it because I haven't read it yet. So sorry, Logan. Um, but yeah, no. Colin and I read In Cold Blood earlier this year, which was really good. Read Silmarillion. I'm gonna have to clear my. It's like you said, I'm gonna have to clear my whole schedule before I read the Silmarillion. So that's probably gonna take a while. I do want to read his Children of Hurin. I think Huron. I don't know how it's pronounced. Apparently, like that's his take on like really dark fantasy, like even grim dark. I've heard some people call it. Which I'm like, oh, Tolkien doing dark stuff. Let's see how that goes. So that kind of goes into, I think Tolkien is darker than some people give credit for. So there's that as well. I know Tharnell said he'd rather live in Mordor, which, like, why? But, it's, are you sane, sir? Oh, man. Oh, man. Read the Silmarillion. Oh, it's part of the Silmarillion. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, Tolkien's another one that's really fascinating because he's kind of, I like to compare him to like Harold Bloom. Like he was a brilliant man who knew what the hell he was talking about. And he had a very specific view for how fantasy stories should be written, or fairy stories is what he would call them. So it'd be interesting seeing him do like a darker fantasy than like Lord of the Rings. And Lord of the Rings can get pretty dark at points. Like, the ending is actually pretty sad, actually, if you think about it, because Frodo, he threw the ring, I guess he technically didn't do it. He succumbed to the ring, but like, he went through a lot of shit, and that like it scars him a little bit, and he's not really sure if he'll ever be able to live a normal life again. Like that's sad, And there's also because of the scouring of the Shire as well, which they don't talk about in the movies, which is, I have to kind of echo Raph here. It's kind of funny that they don't like mention it in the movies, but like Lord of the Rings, it gets really dark and sad at times, like, especially with the ending, because there's a lot of like parallels between like PTSD and kind of that coming back from a war or from this experience, and you're not really sure if you can live a normal life again because of what you saw and what you did. Yeah, I want to reread Lord of the Rings at some point to see how it holds up. But and don't and do not listen. And don't listen to Michael Moorcock, I do think, or J.G. Keeley for that matter, I think that Tolkien has a lot of interesting insights about fantastical storytelling. And I mean, read his On Fairy Stories if you want really his view of how fantasy works, how he thinks fantasy should work. Again, I mean, I read you the first time on my comments, but are you insane, sir? It's like that scene from John Adams. I'm like, I'm not questioning your loyalty. I'm questioning your sanity. Have you read any Adrian Tchaikovsky? No, I have not, but I want to. I don't know where to start though, because that dude has written a lot. Like, dude's cranking them out as fast as Brando Sando is. Do you have any indie fantasy on the radar? Yes, I would really love to read some fantasy. Fuck. I just fucking, god damn it. Okay. So I am going to read Phased by Tori Tekken for my Spoopathon, which I was going to talk about in my video, and I just fucking forgot about that until just this moment. So sorry. I am going to be reading that. I am also going to be reading A Hot Dose of Hell, which is another indie horror novel. As for indie fantasy, I am reading Dreamer Awake right now from my friend Liam from Liam's Lyceum, which by the way, if Sam is still here, Samwise, if you run into him later, if he's still here, Dreamer Awake, I've heard has been compared to Book of the New Sun, so go check it out. But yeah, I'm actually reading Dreamer Awake right now. I'm hoping to either finish it today or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow after the OU game, because I have a bunch of stuff I'm doing today. What else? Well, I'm actually about to finish the Adan trilogy as well from Philip Chase, which is really good. I highly recommend it. Really, really good. A bit. I can't give it a 5 because like I always talk about singularity of vision, and I love what Philip's doing. I think he's really good as a writer, but he's still very much like it's still very much in that tradition of kind of that Tolkien Beowulf. You know, there's even hints of Abercrombie in there, especially in this book. There are a couple parts of this book where I'm like, okay, I think you're riffing off of Abercrombie a little too much. But then again, he started writing this, I think, before Lovecraft. Not Lovecraft. What the hell am I talking about? Abercrombie wrote his, so maybe it's just a coincidence. But I was like, okay, the dude's talking about he needs to piss before a battle. That is way too close to be a coincidence. But you know, we'll see. Oh, what are some other indie books I want to get to? I have E.L. Montague's books. I got those recently. I want to try those because they're science fiction, and there's not as much indie sci-fi as there is indie fantasy. And I did I mention Jacqueline Hagan's books? Because if I haven't already, I was going to read those this year, or I was going to read at least the first one this year, but again, slow reading year, and also stuff just kept coming up, so that's probably not going to happen. I'm sad to say. Oh, who else? I'm probably going to read more Andrew Meredith because I liked Thrice. I read it on my phone, which was a little discombobulating, but I read Thrice. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. Which I would recommend Thrice. It's a solid book. If you're a fan of more like smaller scale fantasy, I would recommend it. What else? There's probably more that I can think of at the moment. And he writes both fantasy and sci-fi. Yeah, it's what else? Okay. What else? Let me look, because I got a couple of indie books here. Oh shit. Let's see. What do we got? I am hoping to read Sledge versus the Labyrinth, so I'm probably going to read that next year, early next year. So if you guys know Nick Horvath, you can let him know that, though. We follow each other, so I could probably tell him that on my own. Let's see. How the fuck did I forget Phased? Oh, I'll have to edit some more later and record a bit for it, but oh, that's in fantasy a lot. All right, you know what? Fine, I'll give him that. But it was just kind of like it's a little Abercrombie. Eh. Um. What else? What, you know what? I'm gonna look on my Goodreads actually, because there's probably more indie fantasy that I can't think of at the moment. So sorry, Logan, if that's not very helpful. But I am definitely wanting to read Tori Tekken, so I'm gonna be reading Phased. I'm gonna be reading that soon. I'm reading it for Spoopathon because it's about werewolves, and I generally compare werewolves to horror, so I think it counts. But it's technically, I think, a dark fantasy, so I'm gonna be reading that. Um, I'm going to be reading Jacqueline Hagan at least next year, so I'm hoping to do that. Oh, shit. Let's see. What do we got here? Bushimi. Anyway. Oh, I probably will read Serdar's book. He runs a really interesting channel called I just had him on my podcast not too long ago, which will probably be up in a while. He does the channel called I think it's Infinimata. Really good channel. I'll link I'll type it down below. But he basically talks about science fiction and fantasy, but he also talks about books to read if you want to read, if you want to write science fiction and fantasy. So he talks about a lot of like philosophy. He talks about a lot of like, you know, political sociology stuff. Here I'll just type it down below. His books, though, I do want to read that. Let me Infinimata. There we go. So check out that guy's channel. He's a really interesting dude. I had him on my channel for the podcast, which will probably be up in a while because I have a bunch of podcasts saved up. Let's see. I would like to read his books because he does like sci-fi, fantasy, and the like. What else? There's also one called like, which is kind of like riffing off the American Revolution that I would like to read. I can't think of the book name at the moment, but I would like to read that as well. That would be a fun. That would be a fun read. I would enjoy that a lot. So, it sounds like something I would enjoy because I wrote a fantasy novel, and it's also very much inspired by that period of history. So I'm really intrigued to see someone else kind of do that. I'd also love to read Tim McKay's books as well. Kind of speaking of that, his book that he just put out, I think yesterday actually. He just released it. So yeah, go check that out. Terra Ignata is compared to Book of the New Sun a lot. I have heard a lot about Terra Ignata. I know that Raph really enjoys it, and a few other people really like it. I have not read it myself, but it sounds like the type of science fiction I would enjoy. At least I hope so, because I'm much pickier about science fiction than fantasy. Though I'm already a pretty picky bastard in general, so that probably doesn't help much. But this question here is probably gonna, yeah. There's a lot of indie fantasy I would like to try. So like Corey Ratliff, I would like to try, and who else? I would like to read more of Joe Burns's Hybrid Helix books because I did read both of those, the first two of those books, and I really enjoyed them both a lot. I'm actually hoping to get Joe on to talk about it soon. It'll probably be in November though, so because again, horror October, I'm doing the horror thing, so I really wouldn't like to be detracted from that. Yeah, it's just kind of it's just a lot. There's a lot of indie authors. It's kind of like opening up a new world, really, with indie authors. Because it's just like, oh man, there's all this crazy ass fantasy that I haven't read, and then like I'll see like Tori or T from an Erudite Adventure, or some other people be like, hey, look at all these indie books from like people, and it's not like vanity projects anymore. It's actually like these are stories that are trying to be serious and trying to be like trying to actually do something here. That's something else I would really love to talk about. I wish were more conversations on BookTube is about kind of where indie publishing will be going, because it is becoming this thing. It's not just a pipe dream anymore. Like there's actually, there's actually people who are reading them and taking them seriously and reading them seriously, and we're getting stuff like the Adan trilogy, which does not feel like a self-indulgent, book just to oogle about how great fantasy is. Like it's a serious thing. Like it's actually a story that is being told, that's being taken seriously. It's quite fascinating. I actually would love to. I'm actually hoping I would love to get like Tim and Joe on, and we could talk about like quality and self pub, because I've heard a lot of critiques of indie publishing from self pub and kind of that crowd of people, which a lot from Amanda, who I'll be on her channel later this evening. You guys can go watch that on her channel, Strange Mentality Paper. And talking about a lot about the quality, and she's gotten into a couple spats with indie authors, which I'm not getting into. That's a whole different thing. I'm not going into that, so don't ask. I'm not going to tell you. But I think it is. I do think she does bring up some interesting ideas about how kind of boundaries between authors and readers, and also quality of the quality of indie publishing is a lot different from, say, traditional publishing, which I know, wow, Britain, hot take there, but I think that's something that should be talked about more, and not just something that is written off as just, oh, they're just hating because of what fucking reasons are they hating? Because of traditional publishing, whatever. I agree. Yeah, that is a good thing about indie publishing. Oh, Amanda's here. Hello, Amanda. How are you? I'm gonna be streaming with you in a little bit. And I've told you this. I hope you got my email. I got it. We're good, because she sent me some emails earlier today. I got them. I responded. Hope we're all good there. But I think it would be an interesting conversation to have. And I actually had a video, and Amanda and Joe, and we had a conversation about indie publishing and trad publishing, and if there's tensions there, or if there should be tensions there. And I'll admit, it actually went a lot better than I thought it would. I mean, Joe and Amanda are good people, and luckily there wasn't a lot of tension there. So I'm glad that it went smoothly. I was a little disappointed though, because like barely anyone saw it. I mean, there were people who watched it and liked it. There were people who were like, "Oh, this was a good conversation, Britain." Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, right. You just walked in as I'm talking about you. But it was a good conversation though. I thought it was a really fascinating. I thought it was a really interesting conversation. Oh, sure. No, most of the indie books I've read aren't like badly done. I mean, there's a couple of misspellings I've seen, but like that's inevitable. Like I've seen that in trad pub as well. So it's not really like something, Po Buddy's nerfect, as my dad likes to say. I mean, but then you get something like the Adan trilogy, which I think is like really well polished. Clearly written by a guy who, really wanted to get his book out there. Like it's kind of a travesty that this book wasn't, it's kind of a travesty that this wasn't traditionally published, because it's really good. I mean, I get why, because that kind of fantasy isn't really sexy at the moment. A lot of people are more about like that Abercrombie Martin kind of style. There's a little bit of that Martin style in there. But I think it's kind of a travesty that they didn't publish Eden. And yeah, no, I see. I won't argue with you, Amanda, because I haven't read enough indie to really, say any much about it. But the indie I have read, I've quite enjoyed. Though, I mean, it is different because, it's interesting. Exactly. That's the beauty of indie pub. And that's kind of we balance each other out. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. At least I think so. I really but kind of going back to my point, I think what Amanda brings up that I think should be talked about more is kind of is about those boundaries and about those, Now, I will say, I've written my book. If I do decide to self-pub, which, I don't know if I'll do that. I haven't made up my mind on that yet. But I will say this now. If you do want to talk to me and interview me and, ask me about the book, I'll be happy to do that. Because, I mean, it's not really a complicated book. But, like, if you want to, like, hear my thoughts about it and you want to, like, ask me why I made the choices that I made, feel free. I'm fine with that. But, but going back to that at the same time, I think Amanda brings up interesting points about, the boundaries of authors and self-pub, because self-pub's kind of thing is you're more closer to your audience, and there's a lot of really interesting ethical questions that could be brought up from that, like how close should the author be to his audience, what boundaries should they have, we should establish that. I think that's really interesting, and there's not enough there's not a lot of conversations about that. I wish there were more conversations about that. And you know what they say, write the book you want to read. You should make the videos you want to see. So that's kind of, yeah, I'll see you later this evening, Amanda. But Aslan makes a good point here. Yeah, indie pub also allows for authors who don't write in what is sexy at the time to get their works out there. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think like, oh man, like, I don't know. I've read the Hybrid Helix books. I've read 2 of them. I don't know if someone would read that, would take that, a trad pub. And Joe has been very honest. He says, I didn't want to waste, I wanted to get it out there. And I'm like, all right, that's Joe's very, this is one thing I really like about Joe. He's very honest about, how he does things and just how he puts things together. And he's really a let me just back up here. It's I forgot my point. That's sad, but here we are. It's the point I'm trying to make here is I think there should be more conversations about that, instead of just being, viewed as a joke. Now, I will say, I mean, Amanda's, she's not here. I'm not, I love Amanda. I have nothing but love for her. But, one of the things I do disagree with her on is just kind of discounting indie literature in general. Now, I'm not saying she's, being obtuse. She's definitely aware of the fact that, indie publishing is becoming a thing, and it will continue being a thing as we go on. It's kind of the future of publishing, really. But, I don't really agree with her kind of just, dismissing it because, it's not trad pub. I don't really think that's fair personally. But, that said, I do think she brings up some really interesting points as well. So, it's kind of, it's, actually, I won't go there. Actually, I won't go there today. That's for another time. But, let me just take another drink. I need to get another drink soon. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to get a drink real quick. So, just hang out and talk among yourselves for about 5 minutes. I will be right back. All right, I'm back. My throat was on fire there, so I had to get a drink real quick. But at the end of the day, I do think there are things that need to be discussed with indie literature, and I think Amanda makes some good points about author boundaries and stuff like that. And I just think she goes a little too far with it, personally. Now, she may disagree, and she has a very like empirical, practical way of looking at things, which now I do think that's kind of. I don't think that's the only way to do things, but that's how she does it. So it's hard to argue with. To give her credit, she makes good points. I just don't agree with them personally, just on principle. All of it, anyway. Isn't that his kind of like? Isn't that like his kind of steampunky one, the kind of Mieville-ish one? It kind of gave that one. I think I've seen covers. It kind of gave me Mieville vibes. Like, probably not as weird though. Yes. Yeah, can I just kind of, if you don't mind me kind of going on a grind my gears kind of talk, but I kind of don't get, I've been a part of these, so maybe I'm being a little hypocritical here. Would you recommend Perdido? Well, for one, grappling book. Maybe you should watch my channel because I've recommended it a few times, but I'll be nice. Yes, you should definitely read Perdido Street Station. It's a great book. It's definitely up there with like American Gods and Black Leopard, Red Wolf as probably one of the great fantasy novels of our century. But thank you for the question, though. I do recommend Perdido Street Station a lot. Oh wow. Okay, yeah, that could be all right. Yeah, maybe I'll check that out at some point. Again, Tchaikovsky just freaking cranks them out, man. Oh yeah, I was talking about sprinting. I don't get sprinting. Just like I see Alan and my friend Matt on Books does it, and I've done a couple of them because I'm on Matt's show from time to time. I'm on his Sunday Pub. I don't get it. Like I don't get it. It's like it just seems kind of like boring to me to like sit and watch somebody read. Like I don't know. It's just me. I don't get it. I'll never say never, but you'll probably not see many sprints from me. Nothing wrong with the sprinting idea, but it's just kind of it's not for me. We'll say. I get self-conscious when I like read in front of people, which is probably why I turn my camera off when I'm involved in the rare sprints that I'm in, usually on Matt's channel. But yeah, it's but going back to City of Last Chances, that's interesting. Maybe I'll pick that up. I probably have it on my list already because I've added a lot of Tchaikovsky on my list. So because I know he's very big in like science fiction and fantasy. He did what's that sci-fi series he did? Children of Time, I think is what it's called. He did that a while back. Oh no, Jimmy's here, and he said, "Brother in Christ, you left your own stream for 3 minutes." I had to get a drink. All right, I was thirsty. Get out of here. Get out of here, Jimmy. No, I'm kidding. Don't leave. No, but I had to get a drink, man. It's parched. No, but it's funny. Jimmy showed up here. I'm quite flattered. I must say. He's probably just dropping in for a minute. Now what else was I gonna? What else am I gonna? What was I talking about? Oh yeah, sprints. I don't get them. If you do them, that's great. I'm glad. I'm really glad. I just don't get them. They're just not for me. I'll just say that. I don't want to shame anyone on this show, but I don't get it. I don't get it. It's not for me. Though, hey, maybe I'll do it someday. Maybe I'll like, you know, when I have those like Allen numbers, I'll get like Logan and Jason and like Amanda, and we'll just like hang out and do sprints for 3 hours. But I find that I don't think that'll be very likely. I'm like, to be fair, Jimmy, I mean, Raph leaves his streams for a couple minutes, sometimes get beer. Give me some wiggle room there. I was a little envious though, because he went to Ireland recently, and I saw some of the footage from his new video, and it actually looked beautiful. Like, you know, actually, but you're on mats every week. Yeah. I'm not saying I'll never do it. That's why I said never say never. So, you know, big brain there, but it's just like, I don't know. It's just probably, I'm probably going to get a bunch of hate comments after that. I'm sorry. I'm not trying. It's like, I'm not trying to hate on people. I just want to make good content. Though, no, maybe someday. Well, you know, that would be fun. I mean, maybe it'll be fun. Maybe I'll try it sometime. I mean, the stream's gone a lot better than I thought, because I was kind of nervous that I would like sit here for like 30 minutes and like nobody showed up. But hey, we got a pretty solid crowd today. I mean, it's 8 people, but that's a lot for me right now. So I'm glad for the 8 people, now 7 people who are now here. So I appreciate you all. Really, I really do. No, yeah. I've also been playing a lot of video games recently. I played Far Cry New Dawn, which was pretty fun, but it's kind of like Far Cry Mad Max. It's very Mad Max-like. And I also was playing Madden because it's football season. So I'm playing Madden 21 right now. Classic booktuber banter. Yes. Always. Jimmy is really good at bantering. He has a good smile too. He has very nice teeth. I mean, you know, look at my teeth. You know, he has very nice, like, white big teeth. You know, it's very admirable. He's a good specimen of human. Oh man, that's probably gonna become a meme after a while. So, like, just like text Jimmy and say you have good teeth, and he'll just be confused. just spam Jimmy and talk about his good teeth, and he'll just be confused the whole time until someone's like, "Hey, Britton mentioned you had really nice teeth," and he'll be like, "Oh, okay," and he'll bring it up on his like blog or like chat. Yeah, I think Chatting with Nuts is tonight, though. I think I'll catch some of it because it's a little bit before I'll go on Amanda's channel, but I'll probably be on Amanda's channel, so I'm gonna miss a lot of it. And I'm seeing Megalopolis tonight for my work, so yeah. As for Megalopolis, Coppola's been trying to make that since the 80s, so either it's going to be a masterpiece or it's going to be an absolute shit show. There's not really any. There's probably not going to be any mixed opinions there. Though apparently trying to actually make it was awful. So yeah. Though then again, what Francis Ford Coppola production of any of his movies were actually like smooth sailing? None of them. Not a lot of them. He did do the Outsiders movie, which was very good. No, Kevin Smith did a Hit Girl comic. That's interesting. The art. Kevin Smith's an interesting man. Oh, it's well, I mean, Aslan, you talked about an urban fantasy about a revolution. I mean, you can read Iron Council. That is also about a revolution. Um, in a fantasy setting. So it's my least favorite of those books. So sorry, Amanda, if you watch this. Amanda from Shelf Unstable, not Amanda from Strange Mentality Paper. Um, uh, it's yeah, just kind of a letdown. To be honest with you, I was kind of sad. You know, I really wanted to like that book, and you know, Perdido and the Scar are phenomenal. So I'm like, oh, this should be fun. And it starts out really good, and then it just kind of dips, and it's like, ugh. It's one of those cases, and it's something that authors sometimes do, where they get real cute with the ideas, and they kind of lose track of the story. Where you're like, okay, now it just seems like you're trying to like do cool, fun stuff just for the sake of it, instead of just having that, but also having it as part of the story. So yeah, that's where I kind of feel Iron Council flopped. Same thing with Embassy Town. It's though I'll be honest with you guys. I'll admit now I don't know if I even freaking got what Embassy Town was about. Well, the thematic stuff I got pretty well. Like how does language influence culture? How does language influence people? But just it wasn't my thing. It was just very dry. It's really quite dry. I just love it when the cup sweats the Dr. Pepper, or it's not Dr. Pepper, it's Diet Coke. I love that. Not annoying and frustrating at all. Well, I'm not drinking. I've actually lost 10 pounds since I've stopped drinking Dr. Pepper. And on the one hand, I really miss Dr. Pepper. It's kind of my trademark drink. It's like it's part of the shtick here at Samoki Dude. But at the same time, I'm fine with the weight loss. Everyone can be a little thinner. And my parents are always like, "Oh man, aren't you glad that like you're thinner now?" And I'm just like, "Well, yeah, but I don't know." Because my parents, they pull the old, "Oh, you can do it for a month, and if you still like it, we'll leave you alone about it." It's almost October. It's just I should have known they'd pull some chicanery like this. I should have known. I just but oh well. I've lost 10 pounds, so it's not bad. It's not a bad thing losing 10 pounds. I do feel thinner actually, even though it's you could probably barely notice it from I used to be very thinner back in the day. Like you know, uh there's a photo of me from at a wedding from like 4 or 5 years ago where I look pretty slender in that, and now I'm a little more pudgy. Um, well, probably because of the Dr. Pepper I was drinking, and also because of um, probably the medication I take for mental health reasons. Um, Thank you for the congrats about the weight loss. I am pleased with it. Despite I mean I've been bad at expressing it, but I am pleased with the weight loss. Um, it's just it's good time. Let me see. And Diet Coke is not the worst thing in the world. I was kind of one of those weird people who liked Diet Coke because I know a lot of people my age hate Diet Coke. I'm fine with it. Like Diet Coke's good. I don't like Diet Dr Pepper because it's too sweet, and that might be kind of like really Britain. Like Dr Pepper's pretty sweet, but it's weird. It's like it's a different kind of sweet. It's like root beer. It's way too freaking sweet for my liking. I don't like root beer, which shocks everyone. Every time I talk with somebody, and I'm like, I don't like root beer. They just look at me like I like fell on my head. I'm like, what? You know, like why? And my mom likes to joke. She'll go, you know, I drank a shitload of root beer when I had you in my when you were a fetus. So maybe that's why. And I'm like, I don't know. I've just never. It's just it's too sweet. It's too sweet. I can't do it. I don't know why. It you know I'm not much of like a candy eater as well. Like I there's candy I like. You know I like M&Ms and Smarties and I'm not the biggest sweet tooth in the world unless it's like I don't know cookies and cream ice cream. I love that shit so much. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird. But yes, at the end of this kind of rant, ramble thing, I've lost 10 pounds, and it's actually pretty nice losing 10 pounds. Because there were days I would look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, God, I'm a fat ass. I mean, not really, but I'm generally. Now, my dad likes to fucking go for the dramatics. He's always like, Britton, do you want to have diabetes when you're in your 60s? I'm like, Jesus Christ, Dad. Like, calm down. Like, the likelihood of that happening is like, it might happen, but it's probably going to happen like 20, 30 years from now if it does happen. And he's like, well, I just want you to know, Britton. I just want you to know. And I'm like, I get it. All right. Like, I get it. Like, calm down. Bluebell. I have had Bluebell. That's good ice cream. I really like the Brahms cookies and cream though. That stuff is great. I love that. I love the Brahms cookies and cream. The cookies, so good. Though it always throws me off. Like I would get like a Oreo. I would get an Oreo like float because I'm a big cookies and cream fan. So I would get like a Oreo like concrete, and there would be like, and they wouldn't even bother like get another spoon to clean it off and fucking get it. So I would get like M&Ms, part of the M&M in my concrete, and it would piss me off. I'm like, really? We need better customer service. Now I'm not gonna throw a bunch of shit because I'm not about to throw a tantrum fucking Karen style because of the ice cream I get, but it's just something that irritates me. And it's one of those banal things that irritates me in daily life. My dog is shrieking. I apologize if you can hear that. Oh yeah. In other news, I did get a new car today. I posted about it on Twitter. So, I mean, you probably may have seen it on Twitter. But I'll show you a picture real quick. It's probably going to be in bad quality, but here it is. There's my new car. It's very nice. It's the white one, in case you couldn't tell. In case you thought it was the truck behind it. No, I don't like trucks. But this new car, I drove it today. It's quite nice. I really like it. Yes, kind of. I like cookies and cream, and with the Oreos in it, they're very good. I like those. But going back to the new car, I got a new car, and it's a very nice car. It's very smooth because I'm gonna be giving my old car to my cousin. Though we'll see how that works out because well, there are members of my family who are stalling on me. She's kind of stalling, but it's not really her stalling. It's my uncle stalling because he doesn't want her to get a new car. I'm probably spilling too much just by saying it, but I'll just keep this succinct. I got a new car. I'm giving my cousin my old car. God help us if it works out. And God willing, it works out. And it's a nice car. So there you go. Tell us more about the car. Well, it's pretty new. It only has like 20,000 miles, I think. Hold on real quick. Hey, Dad. Yeah. How much miles does the new car have? Thank you. Okay, 28,000. I just asked my dad. So, So yeah, it's pretty nice. It's nice. It's a nice car. I'm gonna miss my old car because it's a nice car. It got me a lot of places. There were a lot of great times with that car. I took it to the bookstore a couple times. And it served me well. It will be dearly missed. You know, we'll play Amazing Grace for it, and then I'll have this new one. Though it's going to be kind of frustrating because at my college they make you pay $200 to get like a tag, so you won't get like sued or anything. Cocksuckers. But I digress. Just like I digress. But yeah, I got a new car. Keep things on the level. I got a new car. It's really nice. I really like a new car. And I've lost a lot of weight, so that's good too. And there's also the protracted agony of being an Oklahoma Sooners fan. So that's been fun. Football season has been a fun one this year. So let me just walk you guys through it real quick for those who aren't very aware of sports or football. So all of the wide receivers on Oklahoma are injured or, can't play for whatever reason, mostly injury. And also our quarterback's been sucking. So that, now not all of it's his fault. The the offensive line also sucks. But our quarterback has been sucking. So we put in the new guy, and everyone on OU Twitter is like, oh man, he's going to save the season. And nah, man, I think there's a rot inside the foundation there. Though I hope the kid is doing well. I hope the kid will do well. We're playing Auburn tomorrow, so we'll see how that goes. And then we played Tennessee, and they fucking beat us up. Not it wasn't like a 63-0, thank God, but it was like they beat up our players. Like, oh my God. So yeah, most of the wide receivers are out. The quarterback situation is up in the air. It's basically 2021 all over again. Defense is playing great. I wish the offense would complement that great play, but beggars can't be choosers. But enough on the sports rant. Back to books. Books. Me read them a lot. And I am probably, after I get off the stream, which will probably be in a little bit. We still got some time here, but there will probably be some more recording of my video I'm putting out next week about the Spoopathon, because I forgot to put phase, because it just slipped my mind all of a sudden. Kindles and Kicks is here. Big bro, the homie Darko. You know who it is. He's the main bro around here. Yes, it does really suck to be a Cowboys fan as well right now. We don't have Dan Quinn anymore, so the defense is god-awful. We paid Dak a shitload of money, and he hasn't done shit all year. So now I'm right back to the sports talk. God, Yeah, I'm always... God, and they played the Ravens, and the Ravens are like... They're a good team, but they keep holding themselves back, and they almost choked the lead to us, and we lost. And we played the Giants last night. We won, but I didn't feel good about that win. It's the freaking cow. It's the same thing every year with this team. I'm always like I was actually pretty hyped a few years because we were actually doing pretty good last year and the couple years before that. It's bad. Cowboys are pitiful right now. Last week it was already pretty agonizing being, losing to Tennessee, OU Sooners losing to Tennessee. And then the Cowboys nearly come back. They had the fault. They had the hopium alive for the fan base. And then we lost anyway. So it's just, Harbaugh's lucky, man. The other Harbaugh is lucky. He has a good team on his side. Even though he was trying as damnedest as he was to lose that game, he won. So, and it's kind of funny because, Darko, you live in Maryland. I thought you would be a Baltimore fan, but yeah, so he knows how it feels to suffer being a Cowboys fan. Yeesh. But Cowboys is how about them Cowboys? Am I right? It's like a punchline in the league now. That's how embarrassing it is to be a Cowboys fan. Like, literally, Mike McCarthy is like Marty Schottenheimer, who actually won a Super Bowl because he had Aaron Rodgers. And, like, Dak, I think Dak's a good quarterback. A lot of people give him shit for justified reasons and for, unjustified reasons. All right, never mind then. I mean, I'm not from Maryland, so I don't know, but yeah. But yeah, being a Cowboys fan is freaking agony. Like, it's been agony since I was a kid, like I was born in 2001. So that was like right after they came back from their, like, when they were just running roughshod over the league in the 90s, with Jimmy Johnson, and then Barry Switzer, former OU coach, came in and won with the Jimmy Johnson team. And, and Jerry Johnson, or not Jerry Johnson, I'm getting mixed up with Jimmy Johnson. Jerry Jones is, he's basically that guy who won a championship like 10 years ago and still thinks he can fucking play the game, even though, like, he has flaws that keep him from, taking the extra step. It's, oh my God. It's just, it is agony. It is straight up agony. I mean, it's not in the same agony as like being a Browns fan or the Lions before the Lions got good. Before the Lions finally got their act together after like 60 years and started playing like good football. Or, oh God, who's another woeful team? Well, the Giants are pretty woeful right now, which, that was why I was not as impressed when we beat the Giants. I'm like, oh, wow, we beat the Giants. What a great team. Oh, man. It's like, we beat Daniel Johnson, or no, Daniel Jones. I keep saying Johnson. Why am I doing that? Daniel Jones. Great job, Cowboys. Just go home and just take your money, just burn that money, because but it's, yeah, being a Cowboys fan sucks. And it also, and what sucks more is that, like, everybody hates the Cowboys who aren't Cowboys fans. So you're not going to get any, like, you're not, at least with the Browns, like, people feel sorry for the Browns, even though they're a woefully lost team at the moment. And they've often been very lost team. It's just, probably need to get rid of Jerry. I mean, look, I appreciate what Jerry did for us in the 90s, but my God, that man is just, it's just, it's asinine. And I'm not saying that Jerry Jones didn't do good things. He did a lot of good things for the Cowboys. He really made us into a modern team. And, I mean, I know a lot of people don't like that he got rid of Tom Landry from back in the day, but I mean, look at those old records. He was starting to kind of, past his prime. Every coach has their expiration date. Even Bill Belichick had his expiration date. But I mean, it's, he just had his. I think as much as as much as a lot of people loved and respected Tom Landry and what he did for the Cowboys, sometimes it's time to go. I get that. And Jimmy Johnson came in, and although it was a shit show at first, it was like 1-15. He turned around, did that whole 90s run where the Cowboys were basically the Patriots of football. And he's also done a lot of other things. I mean, yeah, I know he kind of built that stadium for his own ego, but it's a great stadium. I've been there. It's a great place. I mean, it's bitch to get tickets to get in there because Jerry's a penny pincher. But it's probably one of the best modern stadiums in football for sure. And in our kryptonite, we still can't beat the Niners. So, I mean, even though the Niners are beat up as hell, if we had, I mean, imagine if the Cowboys had like Patrick Mahomes on the team, like Andy Reid, like we would be running over the league right now. It sucks. It really sucks. It's like we have some of the best receivers. We got CeeDee Lamb. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an OU fanboy. I mean, he's a great receiver. Ezekiel Elliott, who was a great running back, we got him back. So I'm like, all right, so just getting rid of him was completely pointless. And it's frustrating as a fan. My point is we should be able to go the extra step, and like for some reason we just can't. Now, rather that be because of the coaching or bad decision making by Jerry, or bad just bad luck, because let me tell you, luck is a thing. I don't generally believe in luck, but in football, it's real. Like, it really is. I'm probably being a bit of a hypocrite there. But, oh my God. Cowboys are just snake bitten right now. And McCarthy, we probably should have fired him a few years ago, but I mean, he led us those couple of seasons, so I don't know. I mean, he's not Jason Garrett, which I know that's not really saying much because, my God, Jason Garrett just sucked. Just terrible, absolutely terrible, just terrible. Oh man, it's very woeful. I'm sure Darko, if he's still here, he probably feels my pain as a Cowboys fan. He's probably like, based Britain, you know what you're talking about. It's just I'm speaking to the choir right now. But oh God, fucking Cowboys. And the Sooners as well. Like, Sooners are literally like, we're like the Pittsburgh Steelers of college football. Like, we're just like, we usually get good teams. We usually, have good coaching, and then we just can't do it. We can't just go the extra step. And also the fan base acts like we're freaking Patriots or the Georgia Bulldogs, even though we're like, I would say a like B+ tier team, objectively speaking. It's just, and so I'll put it this way: I'm in an abusive relationship with two very difficult to love football teams. Oh man. But I love them. It's a beautiful team, and I hope I don't sound like Trump right now, because he's always like, "Oh yes, it was beautiful, like dogs," that type of thing. I hope that was a good impression, by the way. There's another thing. Like, why the hell is Trump so obsessed with dogs? Like, he always like what does he have against dogs? Like, he's always talking about like people they're lying like dogs, they're dying like dogs, they're fucking like, he's always talking about dogs for some reason in like a negative context, like they're piling in like dogs, talking about the immigration situation, and I'm like, what? Why? Like, why are you so fixated with dogs? But again, I try not to get too political on the channel, but it's just like, geez, I don't get you. But my point I was trying to make is, I hope I'm not just doing the whole Trump thing where he just goes in circles for 60 minutes, and people are like, "Oh wow, woke shit there, Donnie." Limited vocabulary, yes. That's probably the objective reason, to be honest, is the limited vocabulary. But it's like, God, imagine this guy fucking talking about the Dallas Cowboys. He would probably just be like, I don't even want to imagine it. It's fucking Cowboys. He's like, it's America's team, but it's not America's team anymore. They're playing like dogs, that type of, he'd probably say something like that. So he's from New York, so he's probably happy the Cowboys are losing. He's probably like a Giants fan or something. Or if he really is masochistic, he really likes the Jets, which, oof. The Jets are actually coming back. Yeah. It's like, but they're not America's team anymore. And I'm like, Dallas, why are you not playing like this? It's just, that would actually be kind of funny if he did like commentary on on NFL. that would be, oh God. Probably shouldn't joke about that. I'll if he wins and he does the old authoritarian thing, he might throw me into like a fucking gulag or some shit. I don't want that. But it's he's just. But going back to my initial point, Cowboys it's freaking agony being a Cowboys fan. And like nobody will throw you a bone if you're a Cowboys fan because everyone hates the Cowboys fans. Like nobody likes the Cowboys fans. It's just oh god, it's it's oh man. Like Cowboys fans are probably like the third or fourth most like insufferable fan bases. Like there's like the Steelers and then there's the Eagles and then there's like us, like we're right on the cusp there of being like really like we just rub everyone the wrong way and everyone just wants to see us fail, Well, maybe not in the Eagles case. Like people actually like the Eagles, which, makes me vomit, of course, because I'm not a Cowboys fan. But I'm still thinking of Trump talking about the Cowboys. Oh my god. Or fucking Biden doing the Cowboys. He's like, oh yeah, very at least he can keep track of his thoughts, even though he gaffes like fucking crazy. Oh god. Oh yeah, I forgot about the Washington football team, or the commies, as I like to call them now, because the Commanders is one of the like. Look, I get Redskins. Like personally, I didn't really care about that issue. It's like there's so many other teams named after Native American, stuff. But I could understand, I could understand, it's like having a team called the fucking the Houston Porch Monkeys, like something like that, pretty offensive. Like it's kind of offensive nowadays. But like the Commanders, out of all the names you could have chosen, and apparently Dan Snyder picked it because he's just extremely vindictive, which does not shock me at all. He changes it to the Commanders. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, the commies, as I like to call them. It's terrible. Terrible. But no, I can't imagine growing up around Redskins fans. Oh man, I almost feel sorry for the Redskins fans because they're just protracted agony of that team, and also being owned by Dan Snyder. I don't wish that on my worst enemy. Oh, well, aside from being owned by Jerry Jones, I also don't wish that on my worst enemy. Jeez. It's like, who's the worst owner, Jerry Jones or Dan Snyder? Now, I would answer Dan Snyder because at least Jerry Jones actually did something. He does have some competence as a owner / GM. Dan Snyder is just a moron. And I'm glad that he's gone, even though he wanted to burn down the whole league because he's just a dick. I hope they throw the book at him if he gets sued for like sexual harassment, because there have been accusations about that for like 7 years. Even like, imagine being Me Too'd before Me Too was even a thing. Like, that's kind of embarrassing, to be honest with you. Like, that's like, I mean, yeah, fuck that guy. But like, seriously though, that's kind of embarrassing. Like, at least like, I hate to say this, but it's just like, ugh, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad business. Yeah, try growing up around Redskins fan. I can imagine. I mean, like, I don't know. You grew up in like in the 90s when they were good, like when they like were winning Super Bowls and all that. I can imagine that was pretty frustrating. Like when they were actually like, doing something, and they had like Joe Gibbs. Some reason my neck is fucking with me. Let's see. Did I miss anything? No. Oh boy. Yes, I did mention earlier the tingle is real. So I guess it's an actual thing now. Wow, it's a real thing. All right, yeah. I can imagine not having a fun time hanging out with the Redskins fans. Or the Washington Commanders, as they're called now, which is even dumber name. Like, go from like a slightly offensive name to just the stupidest, most generic fucking name imaginable. Like, that's the Redskins. It's just unbelievable. Man, it's just. Oh god. Man. It's kind of, it seems like we're winding down here. A lot of people have been leaving, and hey, that's totally fine. I mean, we still got 3 people, which one probably includes me because I like to keep up with the stuff on my. I like watching through it on the channel, but I'm probably going to turn it off here because I think we're at a good stopping point. Thank you everyone who showed up. So Darko, Logan, Sam, Robin, Amanda, Tharnall, Aslan, probably a bunch of other people. There's probably a couple other people I can't name at the moment. But thank you everyone who showed up. This actually went a lot better than I thought it would. So I appreciate you guys coming and batting for me. Even if you couldn't stay for long. Also, Jimmy, I can't forget about Jimmy and his great teeth. Be sure to spread the meme around. And for hearing about my thoughts about books and cars and the state of football for the Dallas Cowboys and the Oklahoma Sooners. I'm probably going to get off. I'm going to be, again, for those who did not hear it earlier, I'm going to be on Amanda's channel, Strange Mentality Paper. We are going to be talking about mental health in BookTube. We're going to be talking a little bit more about my thoughts on the dark side of BookTube, as people have been calling it. So come in and tune in for that. It's going to be a really good conversation, I imagine. My main goal before I do that is I'm hoping to finish Return of Edan. So wish me luck. I have about 60 pages left. But I'm not sure if I can say goodbye because I'm really enjoying the series. And, I've been on 3 very long books. Well, not very long. This one's probably the longest, like 692. Or well, not 692. Let me see how many pages. What the fuck am I talking about? 657 pages, 657 pages. So, yeah, I really enjoy doing this. Actually, I should do more of these kind of just hangout streams more often if if videos fall through or if something goes on or if I want to. I would like to do more streams because I like hearing from you guys, and it's fun talking with you guys and hanging out for a few hours. Shooting the breeze and all that. But thank you all for coming on. As I like to say, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. I don't really use Blue Sky all that much. You can find me on Goodreads and Letterboxd, where I write reviews that are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. You can also find me on Discord. I'm on Discord group. And like, subscribe, do all that stuff. As my friend John Minton says, it feels good. I mean, you might even feel a tingle. I mean, look at this. It's scientific fact now. So there you go. Look it up on the Patreon. It's a scientific fact. Don't take it up with me. Take it up with John and Chris Ritchie. So yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun. Until next time, maybe I can do this in the evening or something. Maybe more people will show up, so we'll see. But for the people who did show up today, thank you. And please show up again. I love hearing from you guys. Comments and likes and, well, comments mainly, or most of why I do this. So, yeah. So be sure to hang out, be friendly, don't be afraid. Even if you're a lurker, I appreciate you too. So, until then, adios. Come on.